Live.
Roger, we've seen this movie more than once.
We have.
The purchase funnel. Last time we got together, we were sharing results from a recent New Voodoo research study, and that measured the effectiveness of specific advertising channels. And we took people through the effectiveness scores for each of three kind of stages along the purchase funnel. I think everyone gets awareness, right? It's your ability, how well a platform fosters the ability to recall the advertising they're serving up. What about consideration?
Consideration is basically somebody's taken an action. They might have been searching for it or added the product into a cart, kind of everything that falls just short of making that purchase. And we set the bar a little bit higher probably than most. In that we ask that people, if they're still considering making that purchase. So it's kind of up to date information.
Yeah, we put it through a tough test. And then of course, buy as you're making the commitment and parting with dollars or some other kind of commitment.
Right.
That would be our conversion metric, I guess.
Correct.
All right. So just a reminder, it was a 2,500 person study fairly recently as we record this in mid-August. We did this about a little more than a month ago, late June, early July. 2,500 persons nationwide, 14 to 54. That's because we focus on media demos for our radio and TV clients. So we cut things off at 55. Obviously, Generation X, my generation goes a little older than 55, but I'll take 50. I'll take 54 as my cutoff.
There you go.
And of course, we don't talk to under 13, so we stick to 14 and older as far as the interview set for Gen Z. But they're well represented, about a third of the sample Gen Z, and 4 and 10 of the sample millennials, and then the rest of us are me and fellow Gen Xers, although I wasn't in the study. All right, so Roger, remember we got together last. We stuck to basically the purchase funnel for these 5 major app platforms, and no surprise, has been the case for each of the last 10 New Voodoo studies that we do semi-annually. It's the foundational 4, right? Facebook, Instagram, Google, and YouTube. But we did see some TikTok.
Yeah, I was caught off guard by that a little bit. It seems to be creeping into the older generation now, it seems, into the millennials. I've always known it to be Gen Z, very strong in that demographic, but seems like it's kind of expanding. And
this was the first time we actually measured TikTok's ability to convert. Now, we've been tracking that platform for the better part of 3 years as far as the how many times a day or a week folks are using that platform. But for the first time, we got into this purchase funnel efficacy. And I think our gut was that TikTok would do very well with Generation Z in terms of converting to sales. And it did.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep. So you'll see all that data. No need to go back to the previous video. What we did differently, though, is that in addition to the walled gardens that we tested the last time, we added a bunch of other platforms. So these stacks of results are going to get a little bit overwhelming, but it included essentially every major marketing channel you might consider when when considering a mix of different strategies and approaches to get your message to the most likely customers. Right. And so that would include audio media like streaming and podcasts and radio, various versions of time-shifted TV like OTT and cable, and then web apps, mobile apps, websites, and email and snail mail. And I think we put outdoor in there and direct mail. So there's no snail mail. So I think we pretty much put everything but the kitchen sink into the study.
Yeah, no doubt.
So now you'll see, in addition to the walled gardens, these platforms in. So this is kind of an overwhelming set of data. And a reminder, what we're looking at here is the percentage of any of the segments that pay attention to advertising on the specific channel quite a bit. The question was, how often do you pay attention to things advertised? And we use a 1 to 6 scale, and we take those who rated a specific channel a 5 or a 6, which would be often to always.
Right.
And so one of the good ways, or I'd say one of the best ways to read this data, because this is basically the attention score. When your hard-earned money is out there competing with other advertisers and other content, there's a lot of clutter there. What are the ones that foster the greatest attention? So total sample, that's the bodies, right? That's the total bodies.
Right.
And most brands generate sales from more than one specific generation. So it's always good to keep that total sample in mind. Then I like to read from total to the right to see, how well a particular target group does against the total. So for example, if we look at Gen Z, 37% say that they pay a strong attention to ads that are on Google. So whether they're doing searches or maybe they're on the Google Display Network, 4 in 10-ish, roughly, in the total sample are paying attention. But that Gen Z under indexes a little bit for that.
Yeah, I'm actually taken aback by text messages, although it does seem to make sense. I don't know a time when I got a text and didn't at least open it. So,
Yep.
Pretty low bar for attention or awareness. So I guess I would expect it to do pretty well here.
Yep. So, and again, we'll use text messages as our example. So 36% of the total sample, Gen Z slightly under indexes for that as an attention medium. Millennials over index, Gen X under indexes. And then you can see basically, and the WAO is white, Asian, and other ethnicities. And then Hispanic and Black get their own group. So it looks like with Hispanics and especially African Americans, the performance of SMS is quite good. And then, again, we've looked at YouTube before. That is a big cross-generational, has a lot of cross-generational appeal. But look at DSPs. That's digital streaming platforms. So think of Pandora and Spotify or iHeart. There's a lot of radio advertisers out there that may not be aware that you can, with your digital dollars, hit those radio audiences that are consuming on their streaming platforms. But also there's a whole bunch of other on demand and streaming, mostly music platforms that serve up spots.
Right. For it to sit at the top 4 of this chart is pretty surprising. Millennials, 42%, way over indexing here.
Yep. And Hispanics and African Americans over index as well.
Yeah.
And then smartphone apps. Here's where we get into everything from you are just basically doing a programmatic purchase that includes buying mobile ad networks, or you might be doing something fancy like geofencing or geoframing, which we'll explain in a minute, right. Where we're conquesting a specific set of mobile devices that are location based and then pushing ads back to those smartphones. Usually it's in-app advertising.
Yep.
And that one, again, it's millennials seem to pay attention to everything, don't they?
Well, they're digitally native, right? Isn't that the
Yep.
first ones that kind of have it at birth, pretty much?
Yep.
So nothing unexpected there.
And what differentiates them is where millennials seem to be ubiquitous commercial consumers, for lack of a better word here. Gen Z, highly selective. I mean, just on a relative basis, you see a few platforms really popping, like YouTube and TikTok, for example.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Instagram and but again, DSPs. So, again, I'd say that the digital streaming platforms, especially when you think about when you're buying DSPs, you're also buying podcasts. And while podcasts are kind of lower ranked, in the large scheme of things, when you combo those up, and there's going to be some duplication, that's a pretty healthy audience.
Yeah, no doubt. Not so much on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, and of course, Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. So when you look at them side by side, it's the perfect storm of demographic coverage.
That's right. They also
Gen Z is going to favor Instagram, and then millennials seem to be feet in both ponds, and then Gen X clearly by almost a 2-to-1 margin in Facebook.
Yeah.
Anything else surprise you here? The other thing I think is that OTT, which is the cord cutting version of TV watching, right? Where you're installing apps either on a smart TV or on your iPad, tablet, and you're watching linear shows that have been repurposed to on demand, or you're watching streaming on demand platforms. So and many of those are ad supported. And our question is about ad supported TV. But so that OTT TV, 27, 39, 22 across the 3 generations compared to broadcast and cable. There's some advantages to OTT, like targeting advantages compared to broadcast and cable.
Absolutely.
You can be highly selective of what set of eyeballs that you get in front of. All right, so that's attention. Now let's see about streaming. And here's my little plug about audio.
Hmm.
There's there's a lot more to it than Pandora and Spotify, and you can buy across the audio spectrum the same way that you can buy mobile apps or website placement or connected TV. It's all done through what's called exchange traded bidding, and we're pretty good at that here at New Voodoo.
Yeah, no ad blocking, no skipping. I think that's pretty critical here.
Yep.
Not trying to cram everything into 5 seconds or less.
And streaming tends to be a passive, and podcasting, they tend to be, you're either passively listening in the background to streaming music. So the ads tend to play. You're not actively surfing a platform, and trying to, wait 5 seconds so you can skip the ad. And then, of course, if you're listening to podcasts, a lot of people, it's out in their lunchtime walk or during their commute to work. And so you've kind of got them captive. And we've done other studies that show that when podcast hosts are doing endorsements, those far exceed, the more programmatically inserted, pre-recorded agency studio produced commercials endorsements.
That's definitely great for awareness.
Yep. Okay, so now this is consideration. And as you mentioned, the question is, have you ever taken action on something you heard or saw? And that action could include a purchase, but doesn't have to. It's anything. I mean, site reviews, you check the social commentary on Facebook or Twitter. I mean,
right.
Number of different ways you can click, you can join an email club.
Right. Some action that shows that you are at least considering the purchase.
Yep. You're in the market. Google will call it in-market audiences. Mm-hmm. So a higher bar than awareness, right? Because you're actively considering a purchase. And as Roger mentioned, for the purposes of this study, we asked our sample to also take into consideration the fact that it's the folks that are still considering.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so again, reading first total sample and ranking it, because that's going to tell you which platforms give you the most critical mass, and then reading right to left to see where the skew is. Yep. And then that's a really good way of mixing your media dollars. I would say it's better to do that than to say, hey, Google beat YouTube 28 to 25
right.
among millennials. So I'm going to put all my money on Google.
Right. I noticed you've circled YouTube and broadcast TV here.
Yep, I did, just to make the point that YouTube is a lot less expensive, and it has about the same purchase consideration as millennials for Generation X.
Right.
Yep, I did. Thank you for reminding me of that point.
Yeah, no doubt.
And so as you look across, the first thing I like to see is what's more ubiquitous. Well, it looks like TikTok, pretty ubiquitous for Gen Z. I mean, not everyone in Gen Z has money, right? They're still living off mom and dad, a lot of them.
Fair enough.
But still, about 1 in 5 Gen Zers and 23, almost a quarter of millennials. So there's a good demographic spread there. It falls off with Gen X.
Right.
And then Facebook, Instagram, I think the same kind of comparison that we made before. Although Instagram seems to be a pretty good, decent purchase driver on its own, with double-digit performance across all 3 generations and ethnicities.
Yeah, yeah.
And so for Z, it's YouTube, TikTok, and of course, Generation Z are all on their phones. So there's also Instagram and then smartphone apps. And then as far as African-American and Hispanic, I don't see a whole lot of variance here. It's pretty evenly spread, at least among the top platforms. By the way, this study was before Twitter switched to X.
Okay.
But I guess they had to do something, right? You notice we haven't mentioned Twitter once.
Yeah. Oh, where does it even sit on here?
Yeah, it's
at the
down there.
Yeah. Exactly.
Although, responsible for 1 in 5 millennial purchases, who, in terms of the consideration, I should say.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Here's the money shot now. So this would be the ones that actually lead you down the funnel, and our respondents have taken action as the result of seeing an advertisement on this platform and hit the purchase button or started using the product, meaning an indirect sale or a direct sale.
Right.
And so here again, my eyes go to TikTok because we've got pretty decent scores for both Gen Z and millennials. And also YouTube, but not as powerful as TikTok.
Still millennials, digital natives.
Yep.
Seems like they're buying everything through their smartphone or some digital way. If you look at direct mail, it's relatively low compared. Well, 9%.
Yep.
That's actually a bit surprising. Billboards and outdoors, 9%.
Yep.
I mean, these are low for them compared to Google and Facebook, but still decently high compared to the other generations in media.
Xers are a little bit more clustered in their opinions, but it's that, I mean, a good program for reaching Xers is to mix Facebook and programmatic web. So websites and Facebook ads, and video is more expensive, but is very effective as a branding tool. However, when it's just tactical transactional, Facebook, Google, and Google, like when we say websites, Google has its proprietary network of websites and mobile apps that it can aggregate.
Right.
But when we look at the broader category of websites, we can use traded media to get at them. And then for ethnic groups, TikTok, again, pretty powerful across the spectrum.
Yeah.
And YouTube.
Performs very well.
And Instagram, Facebook, and Google. Yep. These are nuanced differences. So I think that, when clients come and have a discussion with us, it's not just about which demographic you want to hit and which platform ranks the best. I think, the creative and what product you're selling, weighs into that a lot. I mean, outdoor has its place. If food, drink, and gas next 10 miles, that's a pretty exclusive captive audience you have on the highway. So billboards are going to make sense. But there's many times too, when you produce a festival every year, right, Raj?
Yeah, we do.
Yep.
Bluegrass Music Festival in Southern California.
And what kind of mix of assets did you use because I know you sold that out or pretty close to it.
Yeah, pretty close. Definitely Google, Facebook, Instagram, very strong for us. We did some radio, believe it or not, to local stations in the area, trying to draw the local crowd. But I think to your point, it is customized. You have to know your audience and your goals and who you're after, what's going to move the needle. And when posed with the question, should we focus on awareness or sales? The answer is yes. I think you need to do both. It's you can see in the numbers, it truly is a funnel.
Yep.
You don't have that awareness, you're not getting down in this area where they actually purchase.
So I want to share something new, some new ad tech that we have. And Roger and I have been meeting with our new partner provider of this ad tech. And I think the reason I wanted to talk to you about your festival is because I think this has big application for you and for anyone doing event-based marketing. And people may not know this, but you actually came from the experiential event-based side of things, right? Location-based advertising is important to you.
Absolutely. Yeah. We were in event production and what they call experiential marketing. So, working with brands to get their message out to people in physical locations. That could be sponsorships of festivals or, custom one-off experiences, conferences, conventions, Comic-Cons, et cetera.
So most people, I think, are familiar now with mobile geofencing, I guess is what we call it. And there's other kind of nuanced terms. There's something called geoconquesting. Let's go through it. Geofencing is generally considered you're using a specific geo coordinates and drawing a polygon or a circle around those coordinates, and you are trying to capture mobile device ID, browser cookies, or some other radio frequency ID, something within that fence, where you can serve ads to them, to mobile phones that are in that fence in real time. Right. I think when I think of that, and there is some retargeting available, if somebody interacts with your ad, or your program could include those captured devices, I want to retarget them after the fact. So that's possible with geofencing. But in general, we consider that the live as the event is going on and immediately after.
Yes.
Then there's another type that's a little bit bigger in terms of the audience it can deliver, and it's called geoconquesting. Right. And the difference is that it works just like geofencing, where you draw a circle or a polygon around a business you're competing with, or in Roger's case, it might be a few bluegrass festivals around the country.
Exactly.
But what you can do is, let's suppose it's September and most of the big bluegrass festivals have already happened. Well, Roger has the ability to draw a fence around those festivals and pinpoint specific date ranges in the past. In other words, we're not collecting mobile device ID from the time that we draw the fence moving forward. We're able to look back up to a year where people have gathered. And so you can use this to do, one-off events like, Roger, what would be a major festival that you might use to feed your event?
No, we use a bunch, but Picking in the Pines or Hardly Strictly Bluegrass.
And so Roger, when it came time to start promoting those, he wouldn't have had to throw fences around those events in real time. He can go back after the fact. And that's the difference between geo-conquesting and geo-fencing. But all of those strategies involve capturing a de-anonymized aspect of a mobile phone, right? Typically a device ID.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no ability to know who you're interacting with, right?
Anonymized, right?
Yeah.
Anonymized,
You were in the location, therefore we're going to make an assumption that you're a prime target for what we have to sell you.
Right.
Geoframing takes that to a whole new level. There's 90,000, roughly, actually it's more than that now, Android and iOS apps that use or request some type of location-based service position. And listen, you may opt out of most tracking,
mm-hmm.
but most people allow a map program to track their location, or right. It could be that that you're on social media and you're posting the dinner you're having at the restaurant, the picture of it. And you allow Facebook to know where you're located.
Right.
Well, all it takes is one app running in the background to make a location call, and that triggers what's called a movement data. And movement data simply is a ping that allows our service provider to cross-reference a massive database that has aggregated tens of millions of what we call online personas. So we all leave digital fingerprints, right? As homeowners, Roger, you register to vote, you pay your property taxes. Your kids are nice and young and haven't gotten into trouble, but if anybody has a criminal record, where else you've lived, how you've spent your credit cards out there in brick and mortar.
Yep.
And then, of course, there's also digital fingerprints. All of that gets rolled up and is stored in a very much de-anonymized fashion. And we all can, as marketers, we can buy access to this data. Well, geoframing allows you to cross-reference the mobile device to the data that's out there and actually pull it down in real time. So now you have the ability. Now you can't do, while you get a lot of things, you'll get, the mobile phone number in some cases, and you'll get the email. We all know that there's rules against mass marketing using those tactics. But I think many people may not know about what the walled garden platforms offer. I think it's called custom audiences. Some platforms. You remember what they call it in LinkedIn?
I don't.
Tailored audiences.
Tailored.
Yeah, that might be Twitter. They've all got a different name for them, but essentially you're ingesting a database of users into TikTok, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, and you can even port that information over to exchange traded media using a ramping program called LiveRamp.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially now you have individuals' data, and you can find them on social media platforms and retarget them with all sorts of different types of advertising. You can also segment the data you've collected. Perhaps you only care about moms with kids at home. A whole bunch of people went into the fence that you established around the grocery store in your town, but you only care about moms with kids under 18 living at home because you are a packaged goods merchant who's interested in upselling a specific new brand. You have that power now with geofencing and geoframing, I'm sorry. So it combines the power of location-based marketing
mm-hmm.
and the power of third-party data overlays in a really powerful way. Now, Roger, I would imagine that the first question you had when I first explained this to you is, what kind of evil will people do with this?
It seems a bit scary. Yeah, I mean, it's
scary.
It's a powerful tool, but it's available, and you can talk about privacy issues and how those are navigated in a legal way. I think that would maybe bring some comfort, but it is powerful and it's grabbing a lot of information for sure.
We as a company have decided we're not going to hand over people's data, but we will use it, we'll curate it for our clients and manage very custom ad campaigns on their behalf. And once you have data, you're able to select who gets on the connected TV buy. You know, when you're talking about $40, $50 cost per thousand, it makes sense to make sure that the person that's on the other end of that message is someone who's been, you know, at a particular location that makes them a candidate for what it is you have to sell. And
Right.
so that's how we're going to use it. I imagine political campaigns have some more evil things in mind.
Maybe have already used it for their
Just know it's out there.
Yeah.
And act accordingly. Oh, sorry about that. So that's it. This was a lot, but Roger, what's the best way to get in touch with you if somebody's interested in any of the tactics we've shared or wants to see more of the data that we've aggregated?
Through my email, Roger, ROGER @newvoodoo.com.
And I'm Mike at newvoodoo.com. We'd love to talk to you. We look forward to seeing you for another edition of New Voodoo Live.
New Voodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@newvoodoo.com.